Good morning, friends. I've been writing again today. I've got the calculator of tomorrow on Medium, which I just finished writing. I posted it in a couple places where mathematicians hang out, math teachers in particular, because I'm interested in going back to let's have some real debates, some real discussion. I never felt like the journalism was very good at following these stories because you've got a lot of, I guess you'd say, English majors or humanity majors who don't want to wade in on a lot of technical math topics. So we did have kind of an ongoing discussion on Forum 206. So I'm going to go there and search on Forum 206 Math Forum, and that ought to get us there. That was a multi-year debate where I spent a lot of time discussing with peers about the future of mathematics education. It's still there as of today, so you can go back and do some searching. I don't think the search engine's going to help you much. So I'm not saying this is a super easy archive to explore, but there it is. It still exists as of today. But really, when we're talking about, say, the Fuller terminology, what I was looking at recently was how much do we use concentric hierarchy? How much do we see on YouTube in particular? Because this is graphical stuff, makes sense it would be video treatment. How about A and B modules? Forget about, quote, concentric hierarchy of polyhedrons. Let's go for A and B modules. These are core in Fuller's terminology. I think you can say if people are not aware of A and B modules, then they're probably not aware of Fuller's philosophy of synergetics, and if so, then the positive futurism that Fuller came up with, which has kind of been dismissed as, oh, that's retro, that's quaint by now. Yeah, he was kind of a funny guy, kind of a crackpot, a goofy genius, right? A goofy guy. Goofy guy. So that's easy then to just dismiss all of his thinking. It's like, eh. So, and the symptom of that is when you scroll through YouTube in 2019 July, you've got me and you've got Frank Zubek and then this one other video. And I'll talk about Frank's since I've talked about my stuff plenty. And I'll talk about colliding A and B modules, which is from 11 years ago. And this Zubik one is from 8 years ago. So Frank Zubek, I'd call him my only detractor so far to date. Like the one person who's bothered to look into this material enough to have some doubts and questions about it. And at least public detractors, maybe behind my back, I have a lot of detractors, but they're all cowards. So the only real detractor I have is Frank Zubek. And he, to his credit, does pretty much define the A and the B modules correctly at the outset. Although he uses the word two frequency, and we really haven't divided the tetrahedron at this point, it's still just 0 or 1 frequency. But, you know, that's in general, I think, his confusion is around the frequency concept. When he gets to the T and the E modules and what the difference is between them, I don't think he's done his homework there, but he's not really interested in those right now. He's got critique of, you know, are Fuller's modules aesthetically pleasing compared to his? Because he has an elusive cube, he calls it, which he builds out of special shapes, other polyhedrons, which he gives names to. And then he attacks the Fuller syllabus for kind of being in the same space, and he sees that as a competitor, and he needs to like kind of sales pitch through the A and the B and show why they're inferior to his. What David Koski showed, though, is that you can assemble all of the Zubek shapes with A and B modules. So if you are willing to go there and study the elusive cube, you'll find that everything he names can also be made from A and B modules, which gets us into this chicken and egg, you know, who makes who kind of thing. Like, well, but then you'd have to make A and B's smaller than they should be or something. I think he gets confused about. the idea of size versus shape, angle versus frequency, and so forth. Anyway, I'm appreciative. I told him, hey, you should just join us. It's not either or. You can have your elusive cube and we can have our A and B modules, and what's the problem? But I think he was into an either or mindset. I haven't heard from him lately. He's not been commenting on my YouTubes. Like I say, he's been my one detractor to date, the one who comes forward. Now, colliding A and B modules, this is a cute video. It's only a minute long, and it shows like a fancy sort of, looks like a Southern California house. Looks kind of swanky, looks pretty cool. And these shapes come raining down out of the sky and start bouncing up and down. Let's see, I'll turn off the sound and see if I can get these to bounce up and down a little bit. I like this, it's cute. But those are not technically A and B modules, right? They're shapes, and maybe they're even made from A and B modules. I haven't figured that out yet. I think this is a fine little video. It's just, in terms of, can you learn from this what the A and the B modules are? That I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical there, but it might lead you further in to go to study what they are. And what they are, we can look in, we can do another search perhaps. Let's see, there's the octet truss again. They're related, by the way, because the tetrahedron is made of A's, and the octahedron, with which the tetrahedron fills space, is made of A's and B's. I could go to the Wikipedia. There's the A, B, and the T modules. They each have 1/24th is their volume, and together 2 A's and 1 B, a left and a right A, and then a left or a right B make what's called the mite, which is, in Fuller's jargon, a space-filling tetrahedron. Let's go back to DuckDuckGo and type A and B modules, because now we're getting outside of just YouTube. And I'll type Grunch, and that might get me there because my website is called grunch.net. And there we go. And so here they are, A and the B modules. Not hard at all to grasp once you see them visually. There's a left and a right-handed version of the A and the B, and together they make the octahedron, tetrahedron, and the mite, which is a space filler, and that makes the cube, 24 of them, makes the volume 3 cube, and the coupler, which is space filling. You need 8 mites for that, and so on. It's a pretty easy playing with blocks system that it's like, sometimes if you share it with people, it's like, well, we're not going to change calculus based on this, or like, why bring this up? It's kind of too late, is kind of an attitude I hear. It's like, you're never going to change math, so why even try? And that's not how most math is treated. Like, you can come up with some interesting little math on the side. If you're a professional mathematician, nobody is going to dismiss your work because it's too impractical, right? It's not going to change anything, so why bother? That's not the usual criterion. But when Fuller comes up with something, let's say it's trivial. Let's say it's just some fancy names, A and B, for some shapes and some space-filling tetrahedron, blah, blah. Even at that level, a lot of math is that way. It's just, okay, blah, blah. It's not that special. I'm fine with not that special. What I'm not fine with is we're not going to discuss it at all, because I think the polyhedrons are our ticket back to any kind of positive futurism at this point. I think we need a renaissance where polyhedrons come back, and so yeah, I do think they're important. Polyhedrons in general. It's like, maybe that's the right brain trying to get back. The left brain is taking over. We're kind of Bourbaki now, if you know what that means. Bourbaki was a school of thought after World War I in France that it's really sacrilege and heretics. It's really heretical to like show stuff and make this be accessible to an ordinary mind. You know, somebody who just has a pretty good imagination. You don't want to pander to them. You need people who can just think symbolically and right, don't make it accessible really, whatever it is. Right? It's got to be more cryptic. Make all math just be algebra on paper, squiggles basically, and stop trying to make it something to visualize. That was kind of a school of thought. Mandelbrot fought that with the fractals because fractals are so visual and accessible, and it's like he felt like that was pretty anti-Bourbaki to be coming with geometry. In fact, Coxeter fought to keep Euclidean geometry alive because that too is something visualizable. So we're coming from a tradition where just having something visual is already, for a lot of people, still not cool enough, right? So there's a lot of cultural background and bias you might want to study to explain why here in 2019 we don't have any real discussion of this nomenclature, even though it ties to a positive futurism, and even though it's very accessible to the young imagination, right? The A and the B modules can take you places just in terms of assembling other shapes, like this rhombic dodecahedron here. I can make this out of A and B modules, still has some popcorn in it. This is the volume 6, that is space filling, that we put the IVM spheres inside. This I can make with A and B modules and so on, and we can make all of Frank Zubek's shapes with A and B modules. The Archimedean duals, check out Guy Inchbald's work on those. They have a lot of the same shapes. It's just they don't use Fuller's nomenclature. And I think he earned again the ire. I don't know about earned, but he garnered the ire of mathematicians for daring to like come up with a nomenclature. I mean, if you know nomenclature is important, it's actually, you know, in astronomy, for example, what are we going to name different celestial bodies? You know, there's a lot of fighting goes on in that regard. Fighting in the sense of, I'm not going to let you tell me what to name something, right? That's kind of a front line in a lot of disciplines. That's why the naming of Buckminster Fullerene was kind of a victory for the Fuller camp, because you can see how the ire against Bucky, which has been strong, the backlash, which I think is going to have to work even harder now to continue. You can see how that might be a front line, right, in the math wars, so-called. And that's why I kept bringing up A and B modules at every turn in the math forum, that forum 206, you'll see. Because I kind of have a sense of where language is up for grabs. Like, there is room here for positive futurism, but it all has to do with language. And a lot of people aren't trained in the humanities. They can't think quite clearly about language. So I don't know if mathematicians are going to be able to help much, because they haven't helped much yet in terms of the A and B modules. But we'll see. Maybe the education industry will see that there is potential here. Talk to you soon.